The words, "Filthy animals like you belong in cages, not courthouses," would haunt Officer Daniel Martinez for the rest of his life. Judge Kesha Williams approached the courthouse steps in civilian clothes, her briefcase filled with case files for the day's hearings. Martinez, stationed at the entrance, sneered at her. Another troublemaker trying to slip through, he thought, blocking her path. With disdain, his hand struck her face with a force that snapped her head sideways. Her briefcase hit the ground, legal documents scattering across the steps like fallen leaves. Martinez grabbed her throat, pitting her against the stone wall. "Filthy animals like you belong in cages, not courthouses," he hissed, twisting her arms and snapping handcuffs onto her wrists, the metal cutting into her skin. Other officers gathered, laughing and recording the scene on their phones. Kesha's jaw ached, but her gaze remained fixed on the bronze nameplate above the entrance, the Honorable Judge K. Williams presiding. Just 20 feet from her own courtroom, she was being brutalized by the very system she served. Inside the courtroom, Martinez adjusted his uniform, his confidence unshaken. He'd played this game before: spin the story, control the narrative, paint himself as the hero. The system, he knew, favored cops over those who looked like her. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady and rehearsed before temporary Judge Harrison, a thin man in his 60s. "I was conducting routine security checks when I encountered a suspicious individual attempting to breach courthouse security." He gestured toward Kesha, now seated at the defendant's table, a purple bruise blooming across her cheek. The defendant was acting erratically, refusing to provide identification, and became agitated when asked to comply. Judge Harrison nodded approvingly. "What did you observe, Officer Martinez?" She was dressed inappropriately for court, carrying what appeared to be stolen legal documents. Martinez continued, his lies flowing effortlessly. "When I investigated, she became verbally aggressive, using profanity and making threats." Officers Rodriguez and Thompson, seated in the gallery, exchanged knowing glances. They'd heard Martinez's script before. Different faces, same story. "She kept screaming about being someone important," Martinez added, his tone dripping with scorn. "These people always claim to be lawyers, judges, senators, anything to dodge accountability. I've seen this playbook before." "Did she attempt to flee or resist?" Judge Harrison asked. "Absolutely. She became physically combative when I tried to place her in custody. I used the minimum force necessary to ensure public safety." Martinez's hand trembled slightly, the only hint of unease in his polished performance. The stenographer's fingers raced, capturing every falsehood. In the back row, a young law clerk frowned, a flicker of recognition nagging at her. "Officer Rodriguez," called the prosecutor, Sandra Walsh. "Can you corroborate Officer Martinez's testimony?" Rodriguez stood, his uniform pristine. "Yes, ma'am." The defendant was clearly trying to bypass security protocols. Officer Martinez handled it with remarkable professionalism. "And the alleged assault?" Judge Harrison pressed. Martinez's jaw tightened. "I used only necessary force to subdue an aggressive individual threatening courthouse security. Her injuries resulted from her own resistance." He swiped to a video on his phone, conveniently starting mid-confrontation. "I have partial footage, though my body cam malfunctioned this morning." "How convenient," Kesha murmured, speaking for the first time. "I'm sorry." Judge Harrison raised an eyebrow. "Nothing, Your Honor," she replied, her eyes burning with restrained fury. Martinez pressed on. "This is a classic case of someone playing the victim card after breaking the law. She was trespassing, carrying suspicious documents, and claimed discrimination when confronted. Prosecutor Walsh nodded sympathetically. Officer Martinez, in your 15 years of service, have you seen similar situations? Unfortunately, yes, Martinez said, his voice rising with indignation. Certain individuals think they're above the law, using racism accusations to deflect from their crimes. It's insulting to real victims of discrimination. Several courthouse employees in the gallery nodded, the narrative familiar and comfortable. Officer Thompson added, "The defendant was carrying what looked like confidential legal documents. We suspect identity theft or fraud." "Fraud scheme?" Judge Harrison leaned forward. "Yes, sir." Martinez jumped in. "Those documents had judicial letterhead, case numbers, sensitive information. No legitimate citizen would have access to that. She was likely planning to impersonate court personnel." The irony hung heavy in the air, but Martinez, oblivious, continued. "This is just another case of someone gaming the system, trying to distract from her crimes with claims of police brutality." He faced Kesha, his eyes cold. "These people think they can waltz into any courtroom and scream discrimination. Not in my courthouse." Prosecutor Walsh added, "The state recommends charges of trespassing, resisting arrest, and assault on a police officer. This civil rights claim is a desperate defense tactic." Martinez smirked, certain of victory. "Another case, another win." Judge Harrison nodded. "Your professionalism is noted, Officer Martinez." Kesha sat still, her hands folded despite the handcuffs, her calm expression masking the storm within. She was cataloging every lie, every detail that would soon unravel Martinez's career. He had no idea who he was facing. "Is there anything else, officer?" Judge Harrison asked. Martinez squared his shoulders. "Incidents like this remind us why we need strong law enforcement. Some people only understand authority backed by force. The defendant learned that actions have consequences today." His words, laced with irony, would soon prove prophetic. "The state rests," Walsh declared confidently. As Martinez stepped down, he caught Kesha's eye and winked, a gesture of dominance. It would be his last moment of triumph. Judge Harrison turned to Kesha. "The defendant may present her statement." Kesha rose slowly, the handcuffs clinking, her dignity unshaken despite the bruise and disheveled clothes. "Thank you, Your Honor," she said, her voice clear and authoritative, filling the room with unexpected power. Judge Harrison blinked, caught off guard by her poise. "I'd like to address several inaccuracies in Officer Martinez's testimony." Her gaze swept the courtroom, pitting each person who'd supported Martinez's lies. "He claimed I was trespassing, but I was on a public sidewalk." Approaching the main entrance, a right protected by the Supreme Court's ruling in Hague v. Committee for Industrial Organization, which establishes public sidewalks as traditional public forums. The stenographer paused, and Walsh frowned. This wasn't the expected outburst. Officer Martinez also claimed I carried suspicious documents, suggesting identity theft. Kesha continued, gesturing to the evidence table. "Those are authentic legal materials, case files, judicial memoranda, correspondence, all of which I have legitimate access to in my professional capacity." "Professional capacity?" Judge Harrison interrupted. "What is your profession, miss?" "Dr. Williams," Kesha corrected, a slight smile playing on her lips. "We'll get to that shortly, Your Honor." Martinez felt a chill. Something was terribly wrong. Kesha pressed on, her voice now carrying the cadence of a seasoned litigator. "He testified I was verbally aggressive and used profanity. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent on any statements I made, but I note they were in response to an unprovoked assault without legal justification." The law clerk in the back sat up, her memory stirring. Kesha's tone sharpened. Regarding the officer's claim of a body cam malfunction, Federal Rule of Evidence 106 allows for summaries of voluminous records. This courthouse has high-definition cameras every 15 feet along the main approach, and the county maintains automatic backups of all body cam footage. Martinez paled. He'd forgotten the security cameras. I request a preservation order for all surveillance data from this morning, 8:45 to 9:05 a.m., including courthouse footage, body cam backups, and any officer phone recordings, Kesha said. Walsh stood. Objection. The defendant can't make evidentiary demands without counsel. Kesha's gaze made Walsh step back. Your Honor, pro-SE defendants have a Sixth Amendment right to present evidence, and Brady v. Maryland obligates the prosecution to preserve exculpatory evidence. The courtroom fell silent. This was no ordinary defendant. Judge Harrison cleared his throat. Miss Williams, you seem unusually familiar with legal procedure. Do you have formal training? I have some experience with the judicial system, Kesha replied, her eyes glinting with amusement. She gestured to her scattered belongings. Officer Martinez called my presence suspicious. This court calendar shows I was scheduled to appear here for legitimate business at 9 a.m. Bailiff Henderson froze, recognition dawning with horror. Kesha continued, Martinez claimed I said I was someone important. I made no such claim, but I did try to show him my identification, which he refused before assaulting me. Despite his interference, I have documentation proving my identity and purpose here. She reached into her jacket, moving carefully, and produced a judicial parking pass, a building access card, and her official ID. Henderson stood pale. Your Honor, Kesha said softly, holding up a leather credential wallet with a gleaming gold judicial seal. There's been a significant misunderstanding about who Officer Martinez assaulted today. I suggest a recess to verify my identification. Court will recess for 15 minutes. Judge Harrison croaked, his gavel falling as Martinez's world began to crumble. In a holding room, Kesha sat calmly as Henderson fumbled with his keys, his voice trembling. Judge Williams, I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you in civilian clothes. Kesha's tone was gentle. It's all right, Henderson. You aren't part of this. But I need my judicial robes, the black ones with gold trim, and my ceremonial gavel, the engraved one from my swearing-in. Henderson hurried out, leaving Kesha to center herself, as she had for 23 years on the bench. This morning, she was Judge Kesha Williams, guardian of justice. In moments, she'd been reduced to a handcuffed defendant. Now, it was time to reclaim her authority. Her phone buzzed with frantic texts from her clerk, Janet. Judge Williams. Where are you? The Peterson hearing is soon. Rumors are spreading. Kesha replied, Reschedule Peterson. Clear my afternoon. Something urgent has come up. She called Chief Judge Margaret Carter. Margaret, it's Kesha. I need you to secure all courthouse surveillance from 8:45 to 9:15 a.m. All cameras, multiple copies, stored separately. Kesha, what happened? Margaret asked. Officer Martinez assaulted me, called me a filthy animal, said I belonged in a cage. He just testified I was a trespassing criminal. I need every case he's testified in over the past 5 years. Reviewed? Consider it done, Margaret said. But you can't handle this case. Conflict of interest. In 10 minutes, I'll walk into that courtroom in my robes. Martinez will learn who he assaulted and who can hold him accountable. Henderson returned with her robes and gavel. Kesha slipped on the black robes, their weight a mantle of authority. She lifted the gavel. engraved with justice's blind, but she sees all. Henderson, announce me properly when we return. Yes, Your Honor. How? The Honorable Judge Kesha Williams presiding. In the mirror, the bruise on her cheek was no longer just evidence of brutality. It was a symbol of a system in need of restoration. All rise. Henderson's voice boomed as court resumed. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Kesha Williams presiding. The words struck like lightning. Martinez froze, Judge Harrison paled, and Walsh's jaw dropped. Kesha entered through the judge's chamber door, her robes gleaming, gavel in hand. She took her place behind the bench, and sat with deliberate calm, her eyes scanning the stunned courtroom. Officer Martinez, she said, her voice carrying judicial weight. You may remain standing. Martinez looked ill, his face cycling through shades of shock. Judge Harrison, she continued, thank you for managing my courtroom during my delay. I'll take it from here. Harrison fled, his robes trailing. Officer Martinez, you testified under oath today. You said, these people always claim to be lawyers, judges, senators, anything to avoid accountability. You called me an entitled activist looking for a payday, said you'd seen this playbook before. And you stated people like me need to learn that actions have consequences. Do you recall? Martinez nodded weakly, unable to speak. Kesha held up a tablet. Let's review new evidence. She displayed crystal-clear security footage from the courthouse. Steps, showing her calm approach, Martinez's aggression, and his words. Another ghetto rat trying to sneak in. Gasps filled the room as the video showed his unprovoked slap, throat grab, and handcuffing, culminating in filthy animals like you belong in cages, not courthouses. Do you see any verbal aggression from me here? Any profanity? Threats? Kesha asked. Martinez was silent, his career unraveling. You claimed your body cam malfunctioned. Here's the backup footage, uploaded automatically every 60 seconds. The video played Martinez's voice. Look at this uppity. Thinking she can just walk into my courthouse. These people need to learn their place. Officers Rodriguez and Thompson. Kesha called. You testified Martinez acted professionally. Care to revise that? Both officers edged toward the exit. Another video showed Martinez's assault from his body cam, followed by Thompson's audio. Dude's really going off on this one. Think she's actually important? Rodriguez replied. Nah, Martinez knows what he's doing. Probably another welfare queen. The gallery recoiled. You asked for my employment verification, Kesha said, gesturing to the judicial seal, her nameplate, and her portrait in the lobby. I've been the presiding judge here for 23 years. Every case you've testified in, every warrant you've requested, has been under my authority. Martinez whispered. Your Honor, I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't look. Kesha said. You saw a black woman and made assumptions. But there's more you didn't know. For 6 months, I've been investigating racial bias and misconduct in your department with the FBI's Civil Rights Division. You've been under surveillance. And today you provided perfect evidence of criminal civil rights violations. She raised her gavel. You said actions of consequences. You're right. Court will recess while I consider charges. The gavel fell like thunder, and Martinez collapsed into a chair, his world in tatters. When court resumed, the gallery was packed with lawyers, clerks, and reporters drawn by whispers of a historic reversal. Martinez sat, a defeated figure, beside his frantic public defender, Michael Carter. Kesha returned to her bench, her presence commanding. Before we proceed with your charges, Officer Martinez, this court deserves to know who you assaulted. She stepped forward. I am Judge Kesha Williams, presiding judge for 23 years, appointed by Governor Richardson in 2001. Confirmed unanimously by the state Senate. I graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Law School, where I was editor of the Harvard Law Review. I served 8 years as a federal prosecutor in the Civil Rights Division, prosecuting 47 cases of police misconduct. In my 23 years on this bench, I've overseen over 15,000 cases, from petty crimes to murder. She approached Martinez. In all my years, I've never seen a clearer example of what's wrong with policing in America. You called me a ghetto rat, a filthy animal, said I belonged in a cage. You assaulted the person dedicated to holding officers like you accountable. Opening a file, she continued. In 5 years, you testified in 43 cases in my courtroom, 28 involving people of color, 26 where you were the arresting officer. Each time, you used the same language, erratic, non-compliant, aggressive. The same lies. She snapped the file shut. For 6 months, I've worked with the FBI, State Attorney General, and DOJ on your department's misconduct. Your name is on a federal watch list. Your arrests, communications patterns, all monitored. Today, you handed us undeniable evidence. She lifted her gavel. You assaulted a federal judge based on racial animus, then committed perjury. My place is on this bench, ensuring justice, holding abusers accountable. Yours is in the defendant's chair. The gavel fell. You're guilty of first-degree assault, a felony, assault on a judicial officer, a federal felony with a 5-year minimum, deprivation of civil rights under color of law, up to 10 years, and first-degree perjury. The courtroom held its breath. This case isn't just about you, Martinez. It's about a system that's let officers operate with impunity, dismissing complaints, ignoring evidence, paying settlements while abuse continues. That ends today. No one is above the law. Martinez sobbed. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Your apology is 15 years and 47 complaints too late, Kesha said. Every person you brutalized deserved this justice. She raised her gavel. I'm delivering justice for every dismissed complaint, every family ignored. You told me to know my place. My place is stopping bullies like you from hiding behind a badge. The gavel crashed down. You're sentenced to 25 years in federal prison, no parole. I'm ordering a federal investigation into every case you touched, every complaint against you. She addressed the gallery. Let this be a warning. Justice sees everything, and it comes for everyone. The courtroom erupted in applause, a 5-minute ovation for justice served. 6 months later, Martinez was in federal prison, his badge and pension gone, his days spent in protective custody, powerless at last. The investigation Kesha ordered exposed deep corruption. 12 officers fired, for supervisors charged, the department under federal oversight. New protocols mandated automatic review of misconduct allegations against judicial personnel, and body cam backups became tamper-proof. Martinez's 432 tainted cases were reopened, freeing dozens of wrongfully convicted defendants and reducing hundreds of sentences. The county paid $8.7 million in compensation from the police budget. Kesha became a national symbol of integrity. Speaking at law schools with a message, justice delayed is justice denied, but justice delivered is for all. The courthouse was renamed the Justice Williams Federal Courthouse, a plaque marking the day justice found its voice. The community transformed, citizens reported misconduct, oversight boards formed, and police training was overhauled with Kesha's curricula on constitutional rights. The young law clerk, inspired, joined the ACLU, fighting civil rights battles. Rodriguez and Thompson faced charges, their laughter now a case study in corruption. Kesh's verdict video went viral, viewed over 50 million times, resonating with those who'd faced similar injustices. Martinez, in his cell, likely replayed the moment he targeted a woman he thought powerless. He was wrong. Justice doesn't just wear a blindfold, it wears robes, carries a gavel, and, when the moment is right, strikes back.